Very good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to class 9 in this online FDP on IoT and its applications using Amazon Web Services. And my name is Madhu Parvataneni. I'll be instructing you in this class on Amazon Web Services. So yesterday in the class, we discussed about how to upload data to ThingSpeak, right? By using Raspberry Pi data. And we have used MQTT protocol for transferring the data from the edge device to the ThingSpeak cloud and all. And today, let's jump into Amazon Web Services and understand how to access IoT in AWS and also how to communicate the Raspberry Pi data to AWS and all. So let's do some case studies over there. Have you all registered in AWS? So today I'll take some use cases. Okay. So case study 1 is hosting. Case study 1 is hosting your own broker and communicating the data from the edge device to your cloud in AWS. Case study 2, creating a database service to host the data, to store the data that comes from edge device. So let's do these two case studies. Hosting your own broker. So yesterday we have used our my broker, which is 34.255.217.186. So let us understand how to create. Let us understand how to create a broker on your own AWS, and also let us understand how to store the data that comes to your AWS account from the edge device. Okay. So initially, let's look at AWS. Let me sign in into my AWS account. So Amazon Web Services is an open source, for 1 year for individuals who wants to try AWS. Which I say, when I say open source, it is nothing but they are offering free 1 year free tier. So let's jump into what is a free tier and all. AWS.com/free. So let's look at what is free for 1 year in AWS. AWS, Amazon Web Services, the name itself says they are the cloud services which are offering through Amazon. So this is the AWS free tier. So in AWS free tier, Amazon EC2 compute engine. This is a computer, and this compute engine in 1 year free tier, they're offering 750 hours per month. Per month it is free. Okay. So today we are using Amazon EC2, which is Elastic Compute Cloud. And today we are using EC2. So we should understand, how much amount of EC2 is free in 1 year free tier. In this 1 year free tier, we are having Amazon EC2 is completely free only for 750 hours per month. 750 hours per month is free. It means that you can run this Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud services only for 750 hours per month. It is free. After that, they'll go for the premium plan once you cross 750 hours per month. Okay. And also today we'll be using some database also. So 25 GB of database is free and this 1 year free tier. So 25 GB is very huge when you talk about sensory data, because sensory data always it will be in terms of bytes. Okay. So when you look at the floating point value of the sensory data, it takes only 4 bytes of data. So the DynamoDB is 25 GB, and also we are having the other database also 750 hours per month. It is free. This is the database server where you can run the database server for 750 hours for free. And we are also having S3, which is nothing but storage device, which works like a Google Drive where you can store your files and all. So it is 5 GB. It is free for 1 year. And in this course also we're using Amazon SageMaker for analyzing all the data which comes from edge device. So it is 250 hours per month. It is free. So when you look at the services of AWS, and today and tomorrow we'll be using Amazon SNS also. So 1 million request, it is free, and this 1 year free tier. It means that not every service is completely free for 1 year. So there are some constraints here. So before you use this service, you should understand how much amount of service is free in this 1 year free tier. So today we will be using Amazon EC2. So Amazon EC2 750 hours per month, it is free. So now today we'll host this Amazon EC2. Once the task is completed, we can shut down the service. Okay, we can easily get started the service, and we can easily shut down the service if it is not required on your AWS. Creating AWS, if you want to create an account in AWS, they ask your credit card details to enter, and 2 rupees will be deducted from your account. Once you cross this free tier, then billing will happen on your AWS account. If you're not paying bill, then your AWS account will be suspended, and amount will not be deducted unless you enter the OTP that comes to your mobile. Okay, so automatic transactions will never happen, but they used to send emails and all to asking for payment and all. But if you follow this constraint, something like 750 hours per month, or the storage should not exceed 5 GB. If you follow these constraints, then billing will not happen for 1 year free tier. So let's understand what is Amazon Web Services. What kind of domains are there, what kind of services are there. Okay, and let's talk about Amazon EC2 today. So when you look at the AWS is totally managed. The services of AWS are managed through AWS Management Console. So this is like, it's a control panel for AWS where you can operate, where you can access all the services through this management console, and make sure that the region which you select here should be Ireland. Okay, in Ireland, the free tier services will be free. Okay, make sure that you select this Ireland as a data center region, and in Ireland, Europe, Ireland, EU-West-1. So this is a data center region where you can access all the free tier services. Okay, if you select the other data center region, they are not free. So ensure that the data center region which you select after creating AWS account is Europe, Ireland. So when it is Europe, Ireland, you can able to access Amazon Alexa for free, and also you can access the other free services which are free for 1 year free tier on AWS. So make sure that you select this Ireland as a data center region. So it is easy to select the data center region. You need to select this beside your username. You will be having, the data center region. You can select Europe, Ireland. Okay, so ensure that the Ireland is selected here. And when you look at the services, you'll have a lot of services here. They'll be in alphabetical order. You'll have IoT services where you can able to see IoT one click. In this FDP course, we'll be using IoT core, and you'll be having different types of IoT services in AWS, and also you'll have different types of services related to machine learning, related to artificial intelligence, related to deep learning, related to security, related to blockchain, related to augmented reality, related to virtual reality. Okay, a lot of services will be there in AWS. Okay, until unless you subscribe for that service, that service will not be connected to your account. Okay, every service there will be a subscription. You need to select the service. If you want to opt it, then only billing will start. Okay, though there are services available here in AWS, billing will never happen until unless you use them. So the policy is like pay as you go. If you keep using the service, then billing will continue on that service. Okay, so as of now, as we have created an account today or the day before, then 1 year free tier comes into picture. So in 1 year free tier, you can access the limited features of all the services which are available here. Okay, so let's focus on limited, because there are a lot of services here. Let's focus on the services which are applicable to IoT in particular, as the course is related to IoT here. Let's really jump into some services today. let's focus on some services tomorrow. Let's focus on and the other services 5OT. So this AWS will take at least 4 or 5 days, to complete the services related to IoT. So let's jump into a service called EC2. Okay, EC2. EC2 is nothing but Elastic Compute Cloud, and this is used to create virtual computer instance, which is nothing but virtual compute engine on AWS account. So you in search bar you can type EC2, which is Elastic Compute Cloud. If you select EC2, then you'll get a lot of options there. You can select the first one, EC2 virtual servers in the cloud, which is nothing but a computer will be hosted. Okay, a computer will be hosted in AWS account, and you can access that computer from anywhere. When you talk about computer, it's all about a compute engine where you can process the application software running on it, which is like you can deploy a server on it, or you can deploy a program on it. You can do whatever the task is needed, which works like a normal physical computer. So let's click on EC2. Let's click on EC2. My data center region is Ireland. Okay, so this is a EC2 dashboard. This is the EC2 dashboard where you can able to see one instance is running here, but for you, if you are a beginner, you have 0 running instances. It means that one computer has been is running on my EC2 console. To get started with AWS, you need to have a compute engine. Okay, without computer we cannot run any application, so you need a compute engine. So this compute engine will work like a computer which is hosted somewhere else, which is like a network PC. Okay, so I'll show you how to create an instance. Here people call it as instance. Instance is nothing but connecting to a virtual computer. Okay, instance is nothing but connecting to a virtual computer, where you can able to see there is one instance type called t2.micro that is running on my account. Okay, but when you create it, if you want to create it for the new time, first time, then you cannot able to see any kind of service running there. Okay, we need to run a service on EC2. EC2 is nothing but Elastic Compute Cloud. The name itself is Elastic Compute Cloud, which means that when you keep adding, when you keep integrating more and more number of applications, it keeps increasing there. The capacity of cloud will keep increasing based on the the application that you run on instance here. So this is a computer which is a virtual computer which acts like a virtual system. We need to create an instance here. To create an instance, you need to click on launch instance. So you'll have a blue color button here which is used to create a new instance. You need to click on launch instance. When you click on launch instance, then it will be asking to select the operating system. So here it is asking to select the operating system. Not every operating system is free. Okay, so let's select one operating system. Let's select Ubuntu server 16.04. Okay, you need to click on the select button. If you click on select button, this operating system will be selected. I always opt Ubuntu server because Ubuntu is widely used operating system in Linux, right? If you are aware of operating Ubuntu on your local desktop, then you can able to access AWS instance also very easily, because you'll have same operations, you'll have same commands there, you'll have same terminals and all. You can easily access the AWS instance if you are aware of Ubuntu operating system which runs on a local desktop. So I prefer this Ubuntu server. You can select the Ubuntu server 16.04. You can click on select. When you click on select, it will be showing what should be the processor type. Okay, there is only one option in FreeTILE which is eligible there, where you can able to see green color option, red text which is written there, saying that this is only the operating instance which is free in this FreeTILE. So you can select t2.micro. So in T2.micro, you'll have one CPU which is allocated to your instance. Okay, and 1 gigabyte of memory is also allocated here. Okay, you can click on review and launch. You can click on review and launch. You'll have a blue color button here. You can click on review and launch. Okay, so the operating system is Ubuntu Server 16.04 and the processor type, instance type is T2.micro. So this is a micro instance which is free in 1 year free trial, and you need to click on launch. But you should understand what is a security group name. Okay, the security group name is Launch Wizard 5 for me. For you, it can be Launch Wizard 1 and all. Okay, security group is very important. So this is a security group which is maintaining security for this instance. For you, it can be say Launch Wizard 1. For me, it is Launch Wizard 5. Okay, I'm clicking on launch. So here this step is very important. When you click on launch, it is asking to create a key pair. So this key pair is very important because using this key pair we will be accessing your virtual instance from the local machine. Okay, local machine is nothing but your laptop or your desktop PC, and virtual instance is nothing but a compute engine which is running on AWS account. So if you want to access the AWS instance from the local machine, then this key pair is very important. So here let us create a new key pair. You can click on create a new key pair. Okay, so I'll write webinar -IoT FDP. So I'm creating a new key pair. You can also have your name there, and please click on download key pair. So this is very important. Please click on download key pair. When you click on download key file, okay, when you click on download key pair, then immediately a private key file will be downloaded. If anyone is having this private key file, they can access your instance. That is why in AWS what people say is you need to store this PEM file. You should store this PEM file in a secure location. Okay, if someone has this PEM file, which is like a password, which is like a when they have this password, they can easily enter into your local into your AWS instance. So you need to click on download key pair. So when you click on download key pair, so this PEM file will be downloaded. This PEM file will be generated for only one time when you are creating an instance on AWS. You cannot regenerate the same file. You cannot regenerate the same file. This PEM file will be generated only when you are creating an instance on EC2. Okay. If you forgot to download a key pair, then we cannot regenerate it. So we need to click on launch instances. When you click on launch instances, after saving your PEM file, after saving your private security file, then instance will launch in seconds. Okay, make sure that your account is verified and authorized. For creating an account in AWS, you should not use college Wi-Fi. Okay, sometimes when we are conducting AWS workshops, if we ask the students to create account, then people will be creating accounts by using college internet. So when you're creating an account in AWS, you should not use public internet. Okay, you should use private internet. And on that IP address, only one account should be created. So when you're creating an AWS account, they will be identifying from which IP address your account is creating. They will store that IP address for future purposes. Okay. So from college internet, if you try to create an account, what will happen? For all the desktop machines, there will be only one public IP address. So they will be locking all the AWS accounts that you create on one single IP address. Okay. So when you're at home, it's easy to create because on the same IP address, no one will create the other AWS account, right? So now instance is running, and for you also, you should have this state saying that instance is running there. To open this private key, we should download a software called PuttyGen. You should download a software called Putty. So when you download a software called Putty, you can search in Google Putty, P-U-T-T-Y Putty. When you search in Google, you'll get putty.org. Okay, this is a website. You can click on this link, Putty. So when you click on Putty, you'll get this option called download Putty. You can download Putty here. Then you should select Windows installer based on the operating system. Okay, sometimes the operating system will be 32-bit, sometimes the operating system will be 64-bit. So you can select the installers. Okay, if your operating system is 32-bit, you can select 32-bit installer. If your operating system is 64-bit, you can select 64-bit installer. In Google, you have to type Putty. In Google, you have to type Putty, so you'll get all the links that related to Putty. And putty.org. Putty.org is a website. Okay, is a website of Putty. You can download Putty from here. There is a link which has been displayed there. You can download Putty here. When you click on it, it will redirect to download page. In download page, you need to select the respective setup file based on your operating system. If your operating system is 32-bit, you can select 32-bit installer. If your operating system is 64-bit, you can select 64-bit installer. After downloading this Windows installer, then in your you can install the software. Okay, when you install, you'll get Putty and PuttyGen. PuttyGen. After installing Putty software, you should open PuttyGen. You should open PuttyGen. Should open PuttyGen. PuttyGen is nothing but Putty key generator. You need to generate a Putty key from the PEM file, because PEM file is downloaded from AWS console. Okay, when you're creating an instance, and that PEM file has to be stored in a secure location. But the Putty key has to be generated by using that PEM file, by using this software called PuttyGen. PuttyGen is nothing but generating a Putty key by using the PEM file, which is downloaded from AWS instance. Have you installed this software? If you install this software, then I will show you how to generate a Putty key. So what we are doing today is we are going to host a virtual computer instance. Okay. After installing the software, you can click on Windows button and you can search for PuttyGen. Okay, PuttyGen. That is Putty software. But before Putty, we need to generate a Putty key. So before we get into Putty, we need to generate a Putty key. You need to open Putty generator. Okay, Putty key generator. So this Putty key generator is used to generate a Putty key from the PEM file. Then what you have to do is you need to click on load. You need to select the PEM file which is downloaded. You need to select your PEM file. Okay, you need to click on load and make sure that you select all files. Okay, if you select all files, then this PEM file will be displayed. Okay, you need to click on load. So when you click on load, you'll get a browse window. Okay, where you need to select your PEM file. You need to click on all files. Okay, when you click on all files, then you can able to see your PEM file. So when you click on open, you can able to see some key, encrypted key. So you should not share this encrypted key. Okay, so this is the key which is generated, which is a PEM file. Okay, which is generated while creating an instance. After that, what you have to do is you have to click on save private key. Okay, you need to click on save private key. there is a button called save private key. When you click on save private key, it is asking, are you sure you want to save this key without a passphrase to protect it? Okay. If you want to put a password, you can put a password here. Okay, but you should not forget the password. If you forget the password, then again you need to generate a private key. Okay, you should not forget the password. Okay, or if you don't want to put any password, you can click on save private key. You can click on yes. Okay, when you click on yes, it is asking to give some file name. Okay, I'll save on desktop. Say I'll write webinar. Okay, webinar. Then you have to click on save. So when you click on save, webinar.ppk file, putty private key file will be will be saved on the desktop. You can save this ppk file anywhere in your computer. Okay, I'm saving it on my desktop. Have you saved your ppk file? If you click on save, then a ppk file will be generated. Okay, so this is the ppk file where you can able to see on my desktop. Okay, this is a private putty key file which is saved for the PEM file. So this ppk file, this is called ppk file, and the Amazon from Amazon Web Services, a private key, a PEM file will be downloaded, and through that PEM file we have generated this ppk file to Puttygen. After generating this private key file, you can close Puttygen because the work with Puttygen has been done. But the usage of Puttygen is to generate this private key file, okay, from PEM file. Okay, so this is a step where you have to generate a private key file. When you have created a new instance, you have to do this process. Okay, not every time. When you create an instance, you have to do this process. Okay. After this, what you have to do is you have to open Putty software. Okay, you need to open Putty. You can click on Windows and you can type Putty. Okay, now you need to open Putty. You should open Putty. This is Putty. So when you open Putty, you will get a window something like Putty configuration. Okay. This is Putty, which is a shell, remote shell. And here you need to do certain configuration to access your instance. Okay. And please follow this Putty configuration, okay, carefully, because if anything is missed, you cannot access your instance. Okay. So let's, and there is a category here, right? On the Putty shell, Putty configuration window, there is a category on the left side. And there is a category, in that category, there is an option called connection, okay? In connection, there is a prompt called data. There is a sub option called data. Please select data there. In connection, there is data. In data, there is some login details like auto login username. Auto login username is always Ubuntu. Okay. You can type Ubuntu there, and then you need to select SSH. You need to select SSH. Inside SSH, there is a plus icon here beside SSH. So inside SSH, there is authentication tab. In authentication tab, there is browse option here, where it is asking to browse the private key file. In authentication, there is an option to browse your private key file. So I have clicked on browse. Desktop, there is my webinar ppk file, and I have selected the path. Okay, the ppk file path is given there. Okay, this option you can able to see only when you select when you click on this authentication, okay, you can browse your PPK file. Okay, we did two things here. One is in data, we have given auto login username, and authentication we have browsed the PPK file which is generated by Putty generator. Okay, and then go back to session. So here we need to enter the IP address. So let's check what is the IP address of our instance in AWS console. So let's jump to AWS console. Yeah. So in this AWS console, you can able to see the status as instance status as running. Okay, the state of the instance is running. Okay, there you'll have a parameter called IPv for public IP address. So this is where you can able to see the IP address of the instance. Okay, you need to select the public IP address. Please copy the public IP address. Copy the you can copy, select and control C. Okay, you don't get control copy by using mouse. You can select the IP address, you can copy, or you can note it down the IP address, because that IP address is nothing but public IP address of your instance. It will not be varied. Okay, it is a static IP which will be constant, until you delete the instance. Okay, until you delete the instance, this IP address will be constant, which is a static instance IP address, which is a static IP here. Copy this IP address and paste it in Putty. Okay, and paste it here. The public IP you need to paste here, and port number will be 22 by default. Okay, for SSH connectivity, for remote shell connectivity, the port number is 22. So I have entered port number as 22. IP address have taken it from my instance, which is nothing but public IP. After that, what you have to do is please save. Okay, please save the session always, because if you save the session, we can load the session directly. From next time, we can load the session. When you load the session, PPK file will be selected automatically. The username will be given automatically. The IP address, no need to copy paste it every time. Okay, so the Putty will have an option to save the session. When the session is saved, you need to give the name. Okay, let's click on save. So when you save the session, automatically, the IP address, the username, and the PPK file path, everything will be saved. So no need to repeat the process again and again. Okay, now this session is saved. If you want to load the session, you need to select the session name and you need to click on load. So when you click on load, you can able to see the IP address here, and path will be select. You can able to see the path, and you can able to see the username in data. Everything will be saved. So only one thing is you need to enter the name. You need to give a new name of the session, and you have to click on save. So once you save it, then until unless you delete the instance, okay, no need to configure again and again. So the configuration will be saved in terms of session here. So after this, we have configured our Putty. So let's click on open. When you click on open, this Putty is running on your local machine. So when you click on open, to this IP address, a request will be sent, and that request will be holding our private key, where a machine can, where your instance can understand it. When you click on open, you'll get yes or no, cancel. You have to click on yes. If you click on yes, okay, it sends the private key file to your instance. If the private key is holding the which is encrypted key, which matches with the PEM file, then immediately you can able to access the instance, where you'll get something like Ubuntu at the rate of IP some IP address will be there. For me, it is displaying 172.31.3.180. For you, it will display the another IP address, which is a private IP of your instance. Okay, so here IP address. So when you look at IP address, Here it is displaying, if you look at the putty software, here it is displaying 172-13-3-180, which is nothing but 172.31.3.180. So that is called internal IP of the instance. This 170.31.3.180 is internal IP. 34.243.254.154 is a public IP, okay, which is like external IP. One is private IP, one is public IP. Okay, one is internal IP, one is external IP. So external IP is always public IP. Internal IP is nothing but always private IP here. So that is why it is displaying 172.31.3.180. So this is the internal IP address of my instance. For you also, it will display another number, which is a internal IP, which is a private IP. So here you can type ls. ls is nothing but a command to list out all the files in the current directory. But there are, as the instance is new, you cannot able to see any files there, because instance is new. There are no files generated. Okay, there are no files in your instance. Instance is nothing but, you know, it is able to access your virtual computer in compute engine, which is hosted on your AWS from a local machine. Now here let us create a directory. Have you all got this instance? I will put it connected to your instance here. Okay, connecting to instance will get failed when your PPK file is wrong. Okay, if your PPK file is wrong, or if your IP address is wrong, or if your username is wrong, then you cannot get connected with your instance. If your putty is idle for more than 1 minute, okay, then immediately putty will get disconnected. Okay, so that is what you have to understand. When putty got disconnected, then again you have to connect it back by using loading the session and all. So let us create a directory. To create a directory, mkdir. Mkdir is nothing but a Linux command, right? Ubuntu is all about Linux operating system. You know, in Linux operating system, to create a directory, the command is mkdir. Mkdir is nothing but make directory space. So let us create a folder called IoT. Mkdir space IoT, enter. So immediately a directory will be created on your instance. So when you type ls enter, now you can able to see IoT in blue color. So which is nothing but a folder name, Okay, now we have created our folder, IoT folder. To enter into IoT folder, cd space IoT, enter. cd is nothing but change directory, IoT, enter. So your putty will enter into IoT folder there. Now you can access a folder called IoT. If you want to go back, you need to type cd space dot dot, something like, you know, Windows also. In Windows also you'll have the same command, right? cd space IoT, so it enter into IoT folder there. So let us update the operating system. And the command to update the operating system is sudo, same as Raspberry Pi. In Raspberry Pi also, the administrative command is sudo, super user do, sudo space apt-get space update, sudo space apt-get space update, sudo space apt-get space update. So this is a command which updates the operating system. Okay, when you hit enter, immediately the operating system on this instance will be updated to the newest version. Okay, when you hit enter, your operating system will keep updated to the newest version. We need to wait until you get Ubuntu@IP. So for me, the operating system is updated, and we need to upgrade the operating system. So when you upgrade the operating system, the packages which are predefined will be updated. Okay, so the command to upgrade the operating system is sudo apt-get space upgrade. Okay, sudo apt-get space upgrade. So this time, after updating your operating system, when you update your operating system will be updated. But when you run upgrade, the entire system, the entire packages, the entire softwares which are available in this virtual instance will be updated to the newest versions here. So you have to hit enter. sudo apt-get space upgrade. So when you hit enter, do you want to continue? Yes, you need to press Y. Do you want to it is asking, do you want to continue? You need to press Y and hit enter. Now you can able to see here the packages like Python 3.5. So it means that Python is available on this instance. You can able to understand that these are the packages available. So you need to press Y to continue. When you press Y, all the packages on this instance will be updated to the newest version. So you need to wait until you get Ubuntu at the rate of IP. Okay. For me it is done. The packages are updated. So the operating system is updated. The packages are updated to the newest version. So when you are creating a new instance, you should update your operating system. You need to upgrade your operating system. So have you all updated your operating systems there? Okay. So let us install the libraries. Okay. Sudo pip install matblocks. So let us install the library. So as we have installed libraries in Google Collaborate, so let us install the libraries here also. Sudo pip install matblocks, enter. Oh, it is saying pip command not found, which means the pip is not there on this instance. So let's install pip. Okay, first sudo apt-get install python-pip. Okay, so let us install pip. It is saying pip command not found. So when you mean, it means that when you get this message command not found, it means that the package is not there. So we have to install the package. So to install the package, sudo space apt-get space install space python-pip, enter. Have we done this? It is asking 209 MB of additional disk space will be used. Do you want to continue? You need to press Y to continue. So the Python pip is installed. Now we can, have you all installed Python pip? So to install Python pip, this is the command. Okay, sudo apt-get space install space python-pip. So here let us install the libraries. Okay, sudo pip install matblocks. Sudo pip install matblocks. As pip is installed, matblocks library is installed, and also you need to install matblocks, and also you have to install sudo pip install IBM_Watson. Okay, because after completion of AWS we'll be jumping into IBM Watson also. So let's install this library as well. Okay, I'll send in chat. Okay, if I'm sudo pip install PAHO-MQTT. So I'll send some commands in chat. Okay, please install all those commands. So as I have installed matblocks IBM_Watson, and also I'm trying to install the PAHO-MQTT. So the Python MQTT library is also installed as of now. So the others, please create a program, sudo space nano space sudo space nano space. So let us execute the sample programs. Okay, demo.py, sudo space nano space demo.py. Okay, sudo space nano space demo.py, enter. An empty file will open. So sudo is nothing but the administrative command. Nano is nothing but notepad editor on Ubuntu operating system, and the name of the file is demo.py. Okay, sudo space nano space demo.py. So let us print your name. Okay, let us print your name. Let us print your name. Simply print off your name in single quotation. Let us print your name. After writing this, print your name. Okay. Control X. You need to press Control plus X. Okay. Sending in chat with the command. Control key and X should press simultaneously, combinedly. Okay. Control key and X. Then Control key and X. Then you'll get save modified buffer. Answering no will destroy changes, but you need to press Y. Okay. You need to press Y. You need to press Y and hit enter. File name to write as demo.py only, and you have to hit enter. Okay. Control key and X should press combinedly. Okay. Then it will ask yes or no to save the file. Press Y and hit enter. You need to press Y and hit enter. You'll get a prompt saying that to save the file or not, you need to press Y and hit enter. Have you all exit from the Nano Editor? When you're accessing Nano Editor for the first time, you'll get confused for Control plus X and pressing Y and hit enter. Okay. It's simple. Control key and X should press combinedly. Then it will ask yes or no. Then you need to press Y. Then it will ask whether to change the file name or not. No need to change the file name. So you have to hit enter directly. So when you hit enter directly, it goes back to this Ubuntu at the rate of IP. It means that it comes out of the Nano Editor. Now to execute the program, sudo python demo.py. Sudo python demo.py. So this is the execution command. Okay, Python. So when you run if you want to run the program, you need to type sudo space python space demo.py. Then immediately the program will be executed there. So this is how you need to create program on AWS instance. Okay. The command is sudo space nano space name of the file.py, and to execute the program, the command is sudo space python space name of the file.py. Have you all got the output? When you type sudo space nano space name of the file.py program, you can able to write the program. If you want to execute sudo space python space name of the file.py, then immediately the program will be executed. So as the program here we wrote is just printing your name, so it will print your name directly there. If there is any error in the program, the error it displays there itself. So here let us create a new file, sudo space nano space mqtt underscore sub.py. So before going for sub.py, let us I told you that you have to create your own broker, right? So let us understand how to create a broker. So to create a broker, you need to understand Mosquitto. So as I said, MQTT is maintained by Eclipse, right? So as I said, Eclipse Foundation is maintaining this MQTT protocol, and they have given a package to install an open source MQTT broker. The open source MQTT broker is nothing but Mosquitto. So we can easily deploy this Mosquitto broker. So Eclipse Mosquitto on this instance, then immediately your AWS instance, this Mosquitto broker will be running on a port number 1883. So let us deploy this Mosquitto broker on your AWS instance. Okay. So let us deploy this Mosquitto broker on your AWS instance. Then your server, your AWS will act as an MQTT broker. sudo apt-get install mosquito. So mosquito spelling is this, okay? MOSQUITTO. Okay, I'll send in chat. Sudo apt-get install mosquito. Okay. For all your reference, I will send in the chat also. Sudo apt-get install mosquito. So it is asking yes or no. Press Y and hit enter. So when you press Y and hit enter, mosquito will be deployed on your AWS instance, and thereby your AWS instance is converted into an MQTT broker. Now you can have your own broker. I will install this mosquito on your server. Sudo apt-get install mosquito. So mosquito is nothing but open source MQTT broker. Now it is deployed on your AWS instance. It means that your AWS can act as an MQTT broker for your applications on IoT. Okay, we can now our MQTT broker is independent, right? We are not dependent on any third-party brokers. Now you can have your own MQTT broker now. When you have your own MQTT broker, your information will be secured. Okay. If someone knows your broker IP, then only they can able to access the data. So here, the port number of MQTT protocol is 1883. Okay, is 1883. So broker is also deployed, but you need to do little configuration here. Okay, you need to do little configuration that we'll do after writing the program. So let's jump into the program. Sudo space nano space mqtt underscore sub.py. Sudo space nano space mqtt underscore sub.py. Sudo space nano space mqtt underscore sub.py. Enter. Then immediately, so sudo space nano space mqtt underscore sub.py. Then immediately a new file will open. So here we need to import the package, import space paho.mqtt.client as MQTT. We need to import the package of MQTT protocol. Okay, and then we have to create a client object. Client equal to MQTT.C client. We need to create a client object. Client equal to MQTT.C client. After creating client object, you need to connect with broker. Try client.connect. So client.connect is nothing but a method which connects with broker. Broker is nothing but MQTT server here. But MQTT server is running on your own IP address, right? It is running on your own AWS instance. Okay. So here you have to write your own instance IP address. So the IP address here, when you're writing program on your instance, you should write the private IP. Okay. Here you should write the private IP. What is your private IP? For me, it is 172.31. For me, it is 172.31.3.180. For you, it will be different. Okay. This is my private IP, comma 1883. 1883 is common for everyone, but IP address is private IP. When you're writing program on AWS instance, you should write private IP. When you're writing program on a local machine, you should write public IP. So this point you should remember. When you're writing program on your AWS, now you're writing program on your AWS account. So there you write private IP. Because private IP will be accessed only within AWS. Private IP will be accessed only within AWS. So print connected, broker connected, except, let's throw an exception here, print broker connection failure. and then let's subscribe. Okay, client dot subscriber, yeah, MB/DHT. So let's subscribe for the data, MB/DHT, and then let's define the notification function, client comma user data comma message t equal to msg dot payload print of t, or let's decode the data of t dot decoder UTF-8. Let's decode the value of t and let's print the value of t. Let's print the value of t. Client dot on underscore message equal to notification. Client dot loop underscore forever. The same program which we are writing from last one day, right? So yesterday also we wrote the same program. Client dot loop underscore forever. This is a program which collects the data. So data collection is common for every topic, right? Data collection is common for every topic. What differs is the data of the sensor. Sometimes people use humidity sensor. Sometimes people use a gyroscope sensor. Sometimes people use pressure sensor. Sometimes people use ultrasonic sensor. Sensors can be different. The parameters can be different, but the process of collecting data will be same. Okay, so the program remains same. The only difference is the topic which is written here. What difference is the topic which is written here. Since we are subscribing for DHT, so I wrote DHT there. When I'm subscribing for, say, if I want to read pulse sensor, then I'll write DMB/pulse. Okay, so the difference is topic, the difference is parameter, the difference is sensor, but the collection of data will remain same irrespective of the sensor. Okay, here you have write your own private IP. Okay, don't write my private IP. You should write your own private IP. How to identify private IP? You can see in the putty shell. Okay, you can see my mouse cursor, which I'm representing my IP. In the similar way, on your putty also you'll have your own IP. Just you need to replace my private IP with your own private IP, and you can exit from this program. To exit from the program, the process is same. Control plus X, Control and X should be pressed simultaneously. You need to press Y and you need to hit enter. Then it goes back to the shell. So here, let us publish the data. Open Google Colab on your browser. Okay. So here, let us write a program for publishing the data. So import paho.mqtt.client as MQTT. So let's have an infinite loop. Let's write import time also. Let's import time library as well. While one colon, infinite loop. Let's connect. Let's create a client, MQTT.C client. Let's connect with broker, try colon, client.connect. So when you're connecting with broker, so this broker is nothing but your own AWS broker, right? So here you have tried public IP. Here you have tried public IP of your AWS, okay? Public IP. So you should identify what is your public IP. So the public IP, so the public IP is this 34.243.254.154. You need to copy the public IP. Okay, you need to copy the public IP, Control C, and paste it here. You need to copy your public IP. You need to copy your public IP. When you're writing program out of AWS instance, so this program we are running on Google Colab, right? We are not writing program on AWS. So when you're writing program outside AWS, you need to mention the public IP. Okay, print broker connected except, so exception, print broker connection failure. And then let us publish the data. Client dot, let us frame the data. for you to understand. T of say 23.0, 35.45.0 order. Let's client dot publish of mb/dht, comma t str of t. Okay, we cannot send tuple directly when you typecache with string. And let's have a time dot sleep of 2. So for every 2 seconds, we need to import the module of PAHO, which is MQTT library, and then we need to import time library, and then infinite loop. In infinite loop, you have to create a client object, and then you need to connect with broker. But this broker is your own broker, which is deployed on AWS. So you have to mention the public IP there. And then you need to frame the data. So sample data, I'm just checking whether these two programs are communicating or not. Client.publish of mb/dht, comma str of t. You need to typecache the data to string format. And time.sleep of 2. So for every 2 seconds, it has to publish the data. When it is publishing the data, when you run the program here, so let's run the program of subscriber here, sudo python mqtt_sub.py. Your subscriber program is on instance, okay, is on AWS instance, but your publisher program is outside AWS instance. So when you run the program on Google Colab, the data which is publishing there should be displayed here. Then it means that they are connected, they are communicating with each other. Now broker is connected on AWS instance. Now we have to run this program on Google Colab. You have to run program on AWS by running a command sudo python. I'll send you on AWS. You should run a command called sudo python mqtt_sub.py. Okay. On Google Colab, you should run this program. When you run this program, it should print broker connected if broker is connected, or it should print broker connection failure if there is any connectivity issue. Okay, it is saying that PAHO is not identified. So let's install it. Sudo pip install PAHO mqtt. Sorry, no sudo. You can enter pip install PAHO mqtt. Okay, this library is installed, and then you can run this program. When I'm running this program, it has to print broker connected if broker is connected, else it should print broker connection failure, because in exception we wrote broker connection failure. So as of my understanding, it should print broker connection failure, because we have to configure the AWS instance. Yes. So it is saying broker connection failure. This is what I need. Have you all got up to this? So there is one observation here. On AWS instance, when you run the program, it is saying broker is connected. But on the Google Colab, when I run the program, it is saying broker connection failure. It means that the program which is running outside, is not able to connect with broker. The program which is inside, can be able to connect with broker. So this is the observation here. This observation is very important, because when you're accessing programs from outside, you'll get a connectivity issue here. The program which is running inside AWS is able to connect with broker. The program outside AWS is unable to connect with broker because there is a firewall here. The firewall on AWS is blocking. The firewall on AWS is blocking the request coming from outside. So here Google Colab is outside. The Google Colab is outside of AWS. It is not related with any AWS product, right? Google Colab is a different product of Google. So this when Google Colab is sending a request to AWS, so AWS is blocking that request. It is not giving a chance to connect with broker. It is just blocking the request coming from Google Colab to AWS. So the firewall, it is stopping the external request. The firewall of AWS is stopping the external request. That is why AWS is very popular. AWS, the security of AWS is very high. So the AWS is stopping the external request coming from Google Colab, and that is why it is showing broker connection failure on Google Colab, but it is showing broker connected on AWS. The firewall is allowing the internal request. The firewall is allowing the internal request, but the firewall is not allowing the external request. Here the external request is nothing but Google Colab. Internal request is nothing but the internal program. So the internal program is nothing but MQTT_sub.py. It is printing a statement like, broker is connected, but the program outside AWS, it is showing broker connection failure. It indirectly means that the firewall is blocking the external request. So we have to adjust the firewall in such a way that we need to create a rule in such a way that, boss, please allow the external request that comes from for this MQTT protocol. We need to edit, or we need to configure the firewall in such a way that the Google Colab has to connect with AWS broker. So let's jump into the AWS instance. We need to configure the firewall. So this step is very important. If you want to configure the firewall, identify what is a security group. So as I said, security group is very important. Security group will be monitoring all the firewalls. Okay, it's like a manager. So for every organization, there will be chief security officer, right? The chief security officer will be managing all the security features related to the organization. So here also security group is there. So this security group will be maintaining all the firewall connections. So let's click on this launch wizard. For you, it can be launch wizard 1 or launch wizard 0. For me, it is showing launch wizard 5. I'm clicking on launch wizard 5. So I clicked on the security name which is given there. So there are rules here: inbound rules, outbound rules. Outbound rules. When you click on outbound rules, have you got this page? Inbound rules and outbound rules. Inbound rules and outbound rules. So outbound rules, all traffic. So outbound rules is nothing but outgoing connections from AWS. Okay. Outgoing, it is saying that all traffic, which means it can send a request to anything. Okay. But inbound rules, there is only a specific rule saying that only for 22 it is allowing. So as I said, 22 is a default port number for SSH. That is why PuTTY is able to access AWS. But the MQTT protocol, which is running on Google Colab, cannot access the AWS. Okay, because only for 22, only for port 22. Only for port 22 it is giving access. So here we need to create another rule by clicking on edit inbound rules. Okay, there is edit inbound rules here. There is edit inbound rules. You can check the mouse movement also. I'm moving the mouse on the button. Edit inbound rules. In edit inbound rules, you need to create a rule. So let's click on add rule. Custom TCP. Okay, custom TCP. Port range. Port is nothing but 1883. Port is nothing but 1883. 1883 is a default port number of the broker. So you enter 1883. So the custom, or you can keep anywhere. Okay. You can select source anywhere. So it means that from any IP address you can it can allow the connection. Custom TCP. So what I selected here, the type of the port is custom TCP. Port number is 1883. So this is a port number on which your MQTT broker is running there on your AWS. So let's click on save rule. When you click on save rule, you can able to see 1883 along with 22. Along with 22, you can able to see 1883, which means that okay, now the Google Colab can access AWS only on this port number 1883. It cannot access the other port numbers here. Okay, so let's run the program. Have you configured? This configuration is a security configuration wherein we are taking permission for 1883 to access from outside. Okay, so let's run the program. Now broker is connected. Okay, now broker is connected. So we are not getting any failure. In the previous, we got broker connection failure because we have not created any rule for 1883. Now broker is connected. It is sending data, and you can able to see the data on SSH on PuTTY also, the same data which has been transmitting here, 23.0, 45.0. In the similar way, for you also, the data which is written on Google Colab should be transferred to AWS instance. Okay, you should be able to see some data which is printing there. This should be this is a case study one. Case study one is all about transferring the data from a machine, transferring the data from a machine to Google to AWS. Okay, through your own broker. Now the AWS instance is acting as a subscriber. Google Colab is acting as a publisher. The publisher is publishing the data, and the subscriber on AWS is subscribing the data. It is receiving the data there. And in between this Google Colab and AWS, there is a broker. That broker is also AWS here. By using your own private broker, we are able to receive data and we are able to publish data here. Have you all got this output? Something like this. The data which is printed on your PuTTY. You can able to see broker connected on Google Colab, and you should be able to see the data on AWS instance. Okay, on AWS instance, you should be able to see some data printed, something like bracket open 23.0 comma 45.0 bracket close. That is the data which is written here in Google Colab. So that data it is printing here. Your AWS should be able to collect data from outside. Okay, because AWS is a virtual instance. It is a virtual computer. You cannot connect Raspberry Pi directly with virtual computer. This virtual computer is hosted in Ireland. Indirectly means that where do I see data in AWS? On PuTTY itself, you can able to see as of now. Okay, as of now, you can see data only on PuTTY. Okay, we cannot, because the data is not yet stored. Okay, the data is just displayed on PuTTY. It is not stored. If the data is stored, you can able to see using front end or using some user interface. You can able to see the data. But as of now, the data is just collected. It is not stored. On AWS PuTTY, there is a PuTTY here, right, which is connected to our virtual instance, where you can able to see the data which is printing there. So here, Google Colab is an external entity for AWS. Okay, Google Colab is publisher. Your AWS EC2 is broker, and AWS EC2, I should say AWS, say Putty, which is connected through AWS EC2 is subscriber. Okay, so the publisher is sending data to broker, broker is sending data to subscriber, but broker is your own AWS instance. Okay, that is what I'm saying. So Google Colab is sending data. So Google Colab is sending data to AWS broker. AWS broker is sending data to Python script, which is loaded on AWS instance. Okay. Now data is collected. Data is collected, but it is not stored. If you store the data, then you can able to see it from front end interface. Okay. Data is collected. Now data is not stored. Have you all got it? Have you all understood what we did today? Because this architecture is important. Okay. What we did, we have created an instance on AWS, and then we have configured it by updating and upgrading the operating systems of AWS instance, and then we have installed some certain packages, and then we wrote a Python script to collect the data, and on Google Colab we wrote a program to publish the data, and then we have created a firewall rule to allow the incoming connections, and thereby the publisher and subscriber are getting communicated with each other. So publisher is sending data, subscriber is receiving data. So that is all about case study 1. So hosting your own broker, and we have hosted our own broker, which is Mosquitto, and then we have communicated the data from edge device to your cloud. So the edge device here we have used Google Colab. Instead of Google Colab, we can also use Raspberry Pi. Okay, because the only difference between Raspberry Pi and this is Raspberry Pi we can connect sensors, but Google Colab we cannot connect any sensor, right? Because Google Colab is just a piece of software, but Raspberry Pi it's a pure hardware where we can connect sensors and all, and then that data from Google Colab to AWS we have communicated. That is case study 1. Case study 2. Case study 2 is creating a database service to store the data that comes from edge device. So now the data has been printed. Now the data is just printed on AWS instance. We need to store this data. We need to store this data in a database server. If you store the data in the database server, then you can able to access this data from anywhere, though the program is closed. Now if you stop the execution, you cannot able to grab this data, because this data is not stored, it is just printed there. Now the data is printing, but it is not stored. When the data is stored, so you can able to access the data even after some time also. But here, if the data is not stored, we cannot access this data afterwards. So let us understand how to store the data. I'm stopping the program. Control C. Control C is a keyboard interrupt. You can stop the program. Control C. That's a keyboard interrupt. You can stop the program. So let us install some commands for hosting the database server. We need to host the database server so that we can able to store the data of the data which is coming from Google Colab. Let us install the server. Sudo apt-get install MongoDB. Sudo apt-get install MongoDB. MongoDB is a database server. MongoDB is a database server where you can host the data, where you can store the data, and no structure query language. So MongoDB, you should understand what is MongoDB. Okay. MongoDB. MongoDB is a free open source database server, and it is reliable for millions and trillions of data which gets stored in the database server. And this follows no structure. This follows no structure, which means that like Python, okay? Python doesn't follow any structure, whereas C follows certain structure. That is why C, it is called structure-oriented programming language. This follows no structure, and this comes under a family called NoSQL. NoSQL is nothing but no structure query language. No structure query language. So there will be no structure for storing the data, and hence the schema of MongoDB is always dynamic. So here let's talk about the fundamentals, which is like int a and a equal to 2. This is in Python, okay? This is in Python. Say int a equal to 2 in C. In C programming language, the memory of A is determined while declaration and definition. But in Python, the memory allocated for A is determined while assigning the value. While assigning the value, then only memory will be allocated for A in Python. But in C programming language, though you don't assign a value, the memory will be allocated here. This is called static. Though the value is not stored, the memory will be allocated. But here in Python, when value is stored, so when the value is getting stored in that variable, then only memory will be allocated. So this is called dynamic. In databases also, if data is not available, memory will not be allocated. If data is not available, memory will not be allocated. In dynamic schema, memory gets increased or memory gets allocated when the raw data is incoming up. When the raw data is fetching up into the database, then memory will keep allocating here. If data is not available, memory will not be allocated. In Python, memory will be allocated only when value is assigned. So here in MongoDB also, the memory allocation for a data will be allocated only when data is getting stored. While storing the data, it allocates memory. If data is not stored, the memory will not be allocated there. MongoDB follows something like Python. MongoDB follows something like Python. MongoDB is a NoSQL database server. So tomorrow I will explain you what is why people are using MongoDB in the modern applications, and also I'll tell you what are the syntaxes of MongoDB, because it takes another 1.5 hours for explaining all this MongoDB and all. So tomorrow we'll do the operations related to MongoDB, how to store the data, how to create the database and all. Because IoT is all about data collection. IoT is all about data collection, data storage, data visualization, and data analysis. Okay, we have collected the data. We have collected the data through MQTT protocol and AWS Broker. So tomorrow we'll be using MongoDB for storing the data. And the day after tomorrow we'll talk about how to do visualization. And the next we'll be talking about how to do analysis there. But let us install this MongoDB, okay? If you press Y, the MongoDB server will be installed. Okay, the command is sudo apt-get install MongoDB. The command is sudo apt-get install. I'm pushing it in chat, okay? MongoDB. Okay, so if you install MongoDB, so tomorrow we'll use this MongoDB server for storing the data, and then later we'll continue. Okay, if you get stuck here and there, you just keep doing it, okay? I'll post this video as early as possible to all your email IDs. If you have any query, you can push me in WhatsApp also. I'm available there. When you're doing it for the first time in AWS, it will be a bit complicated, but when you keep practicing all those things, it will be a bit easy for you to understand. The only thing is, like, we have used publisher, we have used subscriber, we have used broker. Publisher is keep publishing the data, subscriber is keep listening the data, and between them we have used a broker. Broker is nothing but your AWS server, and that is a simple concept which we have used between edge device and AWS instance. Right, chalo, thank you, thanks for connecting.